All right, the other guys aren't even on yet. Okay, so let me do the learning sponsors. And then, as I said, I want to touch back on something that came up in the shiur yesterday, and then we'll go on to today. Today being the 21st, right?
Something like the first day of spring.
Okay. All right. A year of learning by Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. Friends of Leonie Meisman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanuk Zunda. Friends of Mel Skotsky, Moshe Selig Ben Mordechai. Martin Lipman and family in memory of his wife Malka Chana Bas Pinchas. Friends of Herb Jeremiah Tzvi Ben Ze'ev. Friends of Sam Coleman Shmuel Ben Yaakov. Friends of Gideon Lazinski Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir. A month of learning by Josh and Carol Sanborn in memory of his mother Chiena Bas Aryeh Leib and his father Shmuel Aryeh Ben Baruch. B. Pizer in memory of her mother Razel Bat Shammai. Leo and Tova Zimmer in memory of his father Tzvi Ben Israel and his mother Yocheved Bat Yaakov Menachem Mendel. Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his mother Fega Bas Yaakov. B. Pizer in memory of her stepfather Avram Michal Ben Shmuel Halevi. Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father Yaakov Ben Yosef. Andrea and David Dolney in memory of her mother Edel Tzina Bat Shimshon. Friends and students of Rabbi Shalom Kornblum, Harav Shalom Ben Mordechai. A week of learning by Minnie Shavrik in memory of her husband Yeshayahu Ben Nechemia Mordechai. Evelyn and Isaac Blachor in memory of her mother Pearl Rivka Bas Harav Menachem Mendel Eliezer. Hershey and Leah Mendelssohn in memory of his father Baruch Ben Avram Tzvi. Kayla Haino in memory of her father Chaim Yehuda Leib Ben B'Tzalel. Then we have a day of learning today by Ray Garfield in memory of her mother Pessel Bat Nachum, by Rabbi Dr. Moshe Kranzler in memory of his grandson Ilan Yecheskel Ben Aharon Zev. Zina and Jacob Payson in memory of her father Yehoshua Hersh Ben Rav Yitzchak Meir. Gary and Toby Greenstein in memory of his father Yitzchak Isaac Ben Henoch. Martin Lippman in memory of his mother-in-law Leah Bas Belville Chaim. Hetty and Terrence Ogenbraun in memory of her father Pinchas Ben Chaim. And Shemus have an Aliyah, Cranker Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shemus Aliyah, and Mechol B'nai Israel, a good Gaben Shia. Okay. Okay, you remember that yesterday, after we got through that whole business with the Nazir and being doubtful this and doubtful that, we then came to a Mishnah that talked about and concluded Rabbi Meir at the end. Okay, and we had some discussion as to why was it that Rabbi Meir made the statement that he did. Okay, in that particular Mishnah. Okay, I'm just going to go back for a moment. Okay, where Rabbi Meir says that was in the middle of Nun Vav Amud Beis. Okay, in the middle of the Amud, Rabbi Meir lo tehezo kula min sheretz. Okay, and we had some discussion, and I said to you that I had a problem with that section because if we take it as the language clearly seems to say, that should not be any less stringent than the example of the sheretz, then clearly what he's saying is, why might one think that tumas meis, okay, would be less stringent than sheretz? Okay.
Secondary.
Okay. Well, that's so. I had a problem with that. Okay.
I think the Mishnah is saying that the Nazir, the Mishnah says the Nazir cuts his hair on a Chatzikavs. So a Rova Kav.
Yeah, but this is just,
In other words, so that
true.
is, but that he wouldn't cut his hair on, but that is, shouldn't be less than a sheretz.
okay, the point is, why would, okay, and I raised the question, normally wouldn't we think that just the opposite, that the Tumas Mace, okay, would be more stringent,
That's
Then-
what they said.
okay, more stringent. So why should Rabbi Meir have to make the statement? Okay, so coming back, Art Scroll in that issue gave a following note. Rabbi Meir rejects the rule recited by Rabbi Eliezer. He notes that the penalty of kores for entering the temple in Tuma applies even to other tumas. Okay, that was what I was saying the other day. In particular, if someone became tamai by touching the carcass of a sheretz, etc., he is liable for entering the temple. Now, the tumah of a sheretz does not obligate a nazir to shave. Okay? Accordingly, Rabbi Meir argues, even a corpse-related tumah that does not obligate a nazir to shave should render a person liable for entering the temple, since it is no less stringent than the tumah of a sheretz. Okay. However, Koren gave a little different explanation that I did want to just add to, and then we'll go on. And that was simply the fact that with the issue of the sheretz, the Torah specifically says, okay, has beferush that issue. Okay, whereas
Tumas Mace also is explicit.
I'm not sure. That was the question. Okay, whether it was explicit in that case. So that was so that also could be a rationale why Rabbi Meir is making the issue as well. Okay, so I just wanted to come back to that because when I went back to look at it the other day, it was an issue, as I said, that had bothered me. Okay, we're going to start today. We're going to pick up a Nun Vav Amud Beis on the bottom, right? Okay, that last mission on the bottom, and then we're going to go into the new chapter today as well. Okay, so what happens? All right, let me just get my stuff. Okay. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, he says, Rabbi Akiva says as follows. Danti lefnei Rabbi Eliezer, I discussed, I presented, I did this kal v'chomer, we could understand it that way, before Rabbi Eliezer. Ma'im etzem k'se'orah, whereas we have a bone the size of a barley corn. She'eino metamei adam ba'ohel. Okay, it's that in that case we say it does not convey tuma in an ohel situation. Okay, doesn't mean that it doesn't convey from masa umaga, but it doesn't convey an ohel. Hanazir megaleach al magao va'al masao, but the nazir would have to shave once he's in a tuma situation for contact, okay, right, or carrying. Revi'it dam, okay, so now we're making that connection. Revi'it dam, shahu metamei adam ba'ohel, whereas that amount of blood, okay, which does render a nazir tameh in an ohel situation, a no din sheyehe hanazir megaleach al maga'ah va'al masa'ah, shouldn't it also be, this is his kal v'chomer, that it also should render the nazir in a tuma situation required to shave in regards to contact and carrying. Amarli, so what happens? Rabbi Eliezer then responds, Ma ze Akiva, ein danin kan mikal v'chomer. What are you doing here, Akiva? We do not make a kal v'chomer in this situation. Notice, however, that the Gemara does not give Rabbi Eliezer's explanation as to why. Okay, but we go on. Ukashabati v'hirtzeiti dvarim lefnei Rabbi Yoshua says Rabbi Akiva, that when I went and gave the same Kal V'chomer before Rabbi Yoshua, what happens? Amarli, he said to me, Yafeh Amarta, Elakain Amru Halacha. So Rabbi Yeshua tells us that the attempt to present the Kal V'chomer is well presented. However, this is a different situation because here we have a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, okay? In terms of the difference between the issue of ohel for one and the issue of maga and masa, okay? And that therefore there's a difference between the blood and the other, okay? So that was basically Rabbi Yehoshua's explanation. Goes into detail and 56b2, note number 33 in Art Scroll, if you want to circle that and look at that. Okay, we go on the top now of Nun Zion, okay, which right is today's daf. Okay, so they asked in the base medrash, etzem kisaora. Okay, when we learn about a bone the size of a barley corn, halacha, is that a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, our learning in regards to that, in terms of tuman, shaving, and masa, and all of that, and ohel, urevi'it dam kal v'chomer, okay, ve'ein danin kal v'chomer mehalacha. Do we say then that learning about the revi'is dam then is learned based on the kal v'chomer, and we don't learn still a kal v'chomer from a halacha l'Moshe Sinai? O dilma, or perhaps, it says revi'i dam halacha. Perhaps the issue of revi'is dam is all of the learning connected with that is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Ve'etzem kisaora kal v'chomer, and we learn the halachas regarding etzem kisaora based on the kal v'chomer upbringing. Okay. So, but the Gemara tells us now, ve'ein danin kal v'chomer mehalacha, and therefore it tells us very clearly that we cannot use a kal v'chomer approach of darshaning, of interpretation from a item that is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Okay, we go on now.
But we had two options.
Okay, well, it was clarifying. Okay. Now, I want to go on as we say the following in a second. Okay, what is the basis? Okay, that we would say one might say that it deals with ohel and something else only deals with maga and masa. Possibility is our pasuk that we darshan says al nafshot mate. Okay, and we could interpret the word al, okay, as on in that case. And if it's the issue of on, from that you could derive the requirement regarding ohel, right? As opposed to simply translating al nafshot mate as regarding, okay? So I wanted just to clarify that as we go on. Tashma, okay, says a Braita, etzem kisora halacha, according to the Braita, when we learn about the bone the size of the barley corn, that is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. We're on Nun Zion, a few lines down, okay, in the Gemara, revi'it, okay, and regarding the revi'is dam, kal v'chomer, ve'ein danim kal v'chomer mehalacha. Okay, so that's the case. Hadran alach kohen gadol. Okay, now we're getting to our new parak.
Why can't we say if the halach is this way, then something else that's just like this?
No,
obviously
you can't.
That's
Because
kal v'chomer. You can only do
Okay.
that from a pasuk.
You have
Yeah.
kal v'chomer. Okay, when you say Rabbi Yishmael in the morning, the bright of Rabbi Yishmael that lists all the varieties of interpretation that he presents, you see kal v'chomer is there. They all refer to something that has to be based textually. It must be based on the pasuk. Okay, that's also what Michael is saying. Okay, halacha l'Moshe Sinai is not necessarily per se always based on the pasuk.
Well, it's definitionally
It's-
not.
Okay, what it is, okay, is really Torah Sheba'al Peh in regards to something that is Torah Shebechta.
It's not based upon the.
Okay.
It's more than
So it
Torah
can't be a
Shabbat. And it's when Hashem gave the Torah to Moses, he gave him certain rules at that moment in time and said, tell these to the Jewish people, but don't write them in the Chumash.
Okay, so if it's.
So they have the authority of
That-
a
The
pasuk.
yeshiva
but
explanation as opposed.
It's higher level.
Okay, but a
It's-
kavachon comes from a plus.
It has to
Right,
come from
that's
a
the
pasuk.
case, right? And that's why I put it in that context. If you look at all of those items, they all are textually based. Okay, they all have to come from Sukkah. Okay, all right. As opposed to, for example, there's another whole set that's not Rabbi Yishmael of 32 principles of interpretation that are used for Agadah. Okay, but then notice it didn't get into the David,
David.
right?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, all right. Okay. That's it for another time. Okay, Shnei Nazirim. We have two individuals that both have the status of Nazirut.
This ties back
Okay.
to the previous mission
Oh, we're gonna get that in,
of a suffix.
yeah. We're gonna get to that. Okay, we have two individuals that both are maintaining a status of Nazirut. Okay, She'amar lehem echad, and someone says to them, we don't know whether that person was with them or they saw from a distance, but the Gemara is going to address that at some point. Okay, but this individual says to these two Nazirim, Ra'iti echad mikem shenitma. I saw that one of you became tameh. But what else does the person say? Ve'eni yodea eze mikem. But I'm not sure which one of you. Okay, what happens? Migalch. So what do these two Nazirim have to do? Okay, all right. Notice now in the plural, Migalchim u'mevi'in. Okay, the two of them have to come. Both have to shave. Both have to bring korban tum'ah, the korban tara.
One chord.
No,
The
here they
two
bring
together
two.
chip in on one
What
chord.
if they
No,
made-
they bring each bring.
what if they're
No.
We'll see.
They
We'll see.
chip,
We'll
they
see.
chip
What?
in on the,
archbow, 2 sets.
Two sets.
they
Two
both-
sets.
what-
A korban,
birds
tum
and
a
a-
korban.
Yes, they
Yeah.
each bring.
and
A
then the
korban,
two-
right, they each have to bring two.
they both chip in.
No.
On both corbanos.
No,
Okay,
Also, they bring jointly 2 sets.
that's in the later one they chip in. It's not in this initial one.
What if they're Aiden Zolman?
That's not even Aegis.
what is Heshit? That's,
Okay, so, right, two sets, it said.
Yeah, yeah.
first of all, it's only
Two.
one, so it can't be.
What?
Jointly,
That doesn't mean they chip in. They
Chip
each,
in on the.
not, I don't second that.
They jointly bring.
Yeah, this guy brings two and this guy brings two.
Jointly.
No, that's.
No, they
extra.
come together. The
You
two
can't
guys,
do that. You can't bring a Corbin that's not required.
we'll
They
see,
chip
we'll
in.
see.
Can't argue.
Okay? Megalchin u'mevi'in korban tuma u'korban tahara. Okay, they have to bring a korban for the status, the particular korbanot, what for a nazir tameh, and they also have to bring the korbanot for a korban of a tahor nazir. Okay, what happened? The va'omer,
Footnote 4.
that's what we just said.
They bring one.
We'll get back to it. Okay. Im ani hu tameh. Okay, if I am the one that's tameh, korban tum'ah shali, the korban tahara shelcha. Okay, that's the case. Next, v'im ani hu hatahor. And if I'm the one that's tahor, korban tahara shali for korban tum'ah shelcha. Okay, that's what they're saying. Okay, so that's the case. Go on now. V'sofrin shloshim yom. They then count. Each of them has to count 30 days. Okay. Umavi'in korban tahara. Then they chip in and they bring a korban tahara. Okay. Va'omer, and they say, Im ani hu hatame, if I'm the one that's tame, korban tum'ah shali, v'korban tahara shalcha, v'zeh korban taharati. Saying that this korban, okay, of tumah is mine, that right, of tumah is mine, okay, and right, because he had to repeat the 30-day period, he had to do his Nazir term over again. So now he's finishing that, okay, or he's right, and then going on. And Torat Shalicha, one is that v'zeh korban tarati, v'im anihu hatahor, and if I'm the one that's tahor, korban tahara shali, I'm finishing mine. The korban tuma shalcha, and that's yours. Okay, v'zeh korban taharatcha, and this is your korban of tahara. Okay, now what happens? Gemara says as follows: Katani, we learned here, Shnei Nazirim she'amar lahem. Okay, our Mishnah said that there were 2 Nazirim, and someone says to them, Ra'iti echad mikem shenitma. Okay, I saw one of you becoming tamei. Ve'eni yodea eza mikem, but I don't know which one of you becomes tamei. Now, if there were really 3 people there together, don't we consider that a public situation? And then don't we have an understanding that Safek Tuma Barabim should be Tahor? If it's the 3rd person, if the one who saw them is not there, okay, and it takes 2 more to make it public, all right, then we have a view, Safek Tame Biyachid is Tame. Okay. All right, so they're both tummy. So what's the situation? Okay, that's what the Gemara is going to now present to us. Va'amai, why is that the case? Fake tuma b'rishus hayachid. Okay, when we have a situation of doubtful tuma in a private domain, on what basis do we learn this? Misota. We learn it from the example of Sota, which remember we've said is going to be the next Gemara. All right. So, all right. Ma Sota Boel Univelet Afkol Safek Tuma Rishus Hayachi. Whereas the Sota, okay, does her thing, so to speak. All right. In a doubtful situation.
There were only 2 people.
Right. Of Tuma. And that is a non-public situation.
3 people is a public.
What? 3 is public.
3 is
2
public,
private.
2 is not. Okay. Kigon deika beit trey, and that's what now the Gemara tells us. As in the situation with the Sota, when there are only 2, so 2 people then tell us that's private. More than 2, in other words, 3. Okay, is public. Aval hacha shnei nizirim, but here we have the 2 nizirim. V'hai dekai gavehun, okay, and the other person who is with them. Hatlata, that would make 3. Havale safek tuma b'rishus harabi, and that would make that we would have to define this as a questionable tuma situation in a public. Okay, because of 3. V'chol safek tuma b'rishus harabim sfeiko tahor, and we have this principle that says that any question of tuma in a more public domain, then that doubt is considered tahor.
So a question in a private domain is also tahor?
No, there
No.
is tummy.
private, is Tameh. Okay, based on the Sot. Now, Amar Rabba Ba Ravhu Ba'omer. Perhaps this was a situation, he clarifies, when the person was saying, Ra'iti Tuma Shenizraka Beinech. I saw something that was Tameh, that was tossed between you. And because it was between you, he's not sure which one of the them was actually within Dalet Amot. Okay, okay.
Because the Dalet Amos doesn't cause tumor. There's no ohel, it's in the street. So it's either maga or mas. Somebody threw a bone and it hit one of them, but he couldn't see which one.
I
it
don't
hit.
see that in either. Okay, Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, Daikanami, that we can deduce this clearly from the language, says Rav Ashi. Why? As we go on to the top, Dikatani. Why? Because our Mishnah specifically says, Ve'eni yodea ezemikem shmamina. Okay, saying that I don't know exactly which one of you. Okay, and that's how we learned that whatever it was, okay, was between us.
Since he wasn't there, it's not a Robin.
Okay, so it's since he's not, so that answers the question. Since he had saw it from apparently a distance and couldn't determine, that's why it's not Rabim, it's why it's Rishus Hayach. Okay, so we've answered the Gemara's first question as to Safek Tuma, either B'Yachid, okay, B'Rishus Rabim or B'Rishus Hayach. Okay, now we go on to another question on the Mishnah.
Isn't one of them a Badai? Right, you're saying that one of them is definitely.
Sure, one of
Because
them.
It's not a suffix
But we-
per se, in the other case, right?
But he did,
We're not sure if someone's Tomei or not.
right,
Here, someone's definitely Tomei. We just don't know which one it is.
right.
So
He's
wouldn't that
saying,
suffix Tomei be different than the other case?
I think the point is that since he's giving the statement and saying he doesn't know,
He doesn't know which one, but he knows
doesn't
one
know
of
which
them
one.
is.
But if
Okay.
it's far away,
That's
it's-
correct.
it becomes
but
nothing.
one of them,
That's also,
That's it.
but that's the question.
That's still a suffix.
this piece of meat is kosher, this piece is.
If the witness
This
is
is
far
something
away,
which
it
one
becomes
is
nothing,
kosher.
right?
Right?
I mean, the
He
word
can't
something-
give clear testimony. Okay, so what happens? Megalchin u'mevi'in. So the Gemara now raises the point and asks, our Mishnah said that they both need to shave and they both need to bring korbanos. Va'amai, okay? Right, well, we'll see.
Because you can't bring.
We'll
a carbon
see.
that's not-
Hold on. Va'amai, and why is that the case? Dilma loved me'in ina. Perhaps we're not tummy. V'ka'avid hakafa. Okay, and how then would they would be required to do that if it's a doubt that he would have to shave the corner of his head? Okay, all right. So what happens? Amar Shmuel. So we're now going to get into a bit of a side discussion here. Okay, and if you are interested in becoming barbers at all, this is an interesting item. Okay, if you're not interested in becoming barbers, then it's another whole story. Okay. Okay, what happens? Amar Shmuel, Be'isha vikatan. And I'm going to translate the vav here as or, okay, and not and.
Or
Right?
it could be.
Okay.
Or it could be either.
Says Shmuel, we're dealing with a situation of cutting the corner of one's head, okay? And Shmuel is saying, basically, this applies to men, but it does not apply to women or minors.
So the two Naziros are ladies.
How do you know?
That's what
what the
you want
Gemara
to say.
Well, we're going to get to that in a moment. We'll see. Okay? Velokma begadol. Okay? So Shmuel's statement, if it applies to these two individuals, okay, he's arguing, it would appear, and that's clearer more from the second lashon. Okay? But at this point, all he's saying is maybe they're women or maybe it's a minor. Velokma, begadol. So let our Mishnah spell out that it is with an adult. V'hakafat kol harosh lo shma hakafa. And maybe Shmuel holds the opinion that by shaving the entire hair, all of it, it is not a transgression of the Torah requirement of shaving the round on top. Okay? Midelo makim lahan, since he doesn't phrase it that way, Shma mina kasava Shmuel, we have to seem to try to derive that Shmuel must be of the following opinion: Hakafat kol harosh shma hakafa. That nevertheless, the shaving of the entire head also means that one is over on,
And
right?
therefore, he cannot say it's
Okay.
man, it has to
Okay.
say it's
So-
woman.
So therefore, that's why now we can say at this point that the situation had to be two women and not two adult men. Okay, that's why I didn't want to jump ahead. Okay, now Marzutra is going to give us another version of this statement of this view of Shmuel's. Okay? Marzutra matne la lahashma'ata de Shmuel. Marzutra taught this lesson provided to us by Shmuel, Asefa,
And then the next issue.
okay, on the following statement, following the text. Nazir shahayat tameh b'safek umuchlat b'safek. We've seen this before, okay? All right? A Nazir who became tameh with doubt and a confirmed Mitzorah with doubt. Ochel b'kadoshim la'achar shishim yom. He may eat kodshim after 60 days. Umegalech, right? Arba tiglachot. And he must ultimately do 4 hair cuttings, 4 shavings. Vahaka avid hakafa. But how is that possible if we're saying already that there's that Torah prohibition of shaving the, right? What happens? Amar Shmuel. Shmuel would therefore tell us, Be'isha v'katan. We must be talking about these Nazirites being either women or being minors. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Hamakif et hakatan, harehu chayav. But Rav Huna has taught us that one who cuts the hair of the corners of the head of a minor also transgresses that Torah commandment. So what happens? Amala Rav Ada bar Ahava, the Rav Huna, v'didach, according to you, man rigaleich lahon, who cuts the hair of your children then? He asks. Amarle chova. He says, my wife that cuts the hair. Okay? All right. So what happens? At that point, Rav Ada bar Ahava makes a comment. Okay. Now, it was interesting just to tell you that on the one hand, one source, one Perush said that this was like a curse. On the other hand, the other one did not want to say that he was cursing them. However, notice what the Gemara is going to tell us shortly.
It came true.
Okay, right. So what happens? What did Rav Ada bar Ahava say? Yes, Ted.
Is it the barber who's violated? Or
Yeah.
the person whose head was cut?
No, barber.
No, there's a note down here.
Yeah.
It says that one violates the prohibition by shaving the head of a
Okay.
minor.
Okay. In other words, one is going to hold that. Okay, that whoever does the hair cutting, whomever does the hair cutting, male or female, transgressing.
Not the one whose hair is cut. but the one
Can't,
who
he's a
cut.
kid.
The cutter.
Both of them. Both of
Okay,
them. Both the one who
if
cuts
it's
and
an
the one
adult,
who's-
okay, if it's an adult, it would be both of them. If it would be a minor, then it's the one who does the haircut. Okay, all right, that would be the distinction. Okay, But the important thing for us is to see here that one is going to hold that both men and women, okay, are obligated, and one is going to hold that only men are obligated. Okay? So what happens? Nevertheless, Rav Ada bar Ahava makes a statement. Okay. Tikbarinan chova lebane. May chova have to bury her children. Okay. All right. Now, Rav Ada bar Ahava therefore must hold that the prohibition of cutting the corners applies to both men and women. Okay. Whether we're going to call his statement a curse or not may depend on how we continue and see what the Gemara tells us. Now, the Gemara now goes on to tell us explicitly, Kuhu shane de Rav Ada bar Ahava, lo akim le zara le Rav Huna. For the entire years that Rav Ada bar Ahava was alive, okay, no progeny of Rav Huna ever survived. Okay, so that's why I'm suggesting one pshat interpreted as a curse, and one pshat did not feel comfortable interpreting it as a curse, but as a unfortunate result of the statement of him. Okay. Now we go on. Michdei travaihu svira hakafat kol harosh shma hakafat. Since both of them, okay, whether you hold that it's both for men or women the prohibition, or only for men the prohibition, nevertheless, both are going to say that the prohibition of shaving the entire head does include the Torah prohibition of not rounding the corners, right? Smichdei travayu svira hakafat kol harosh shma hakafa, b'mai kemiflage. What then are they arguing about? Rav Huna Savar, he's of the opinion, lo takifu pa'at roshechem, velo tashchit et pa'at zikanecha. He makes the connection, Rav Huna, between cutting the corners, shaving the corners of your head, and destroying the corners of one's beard. Kol sheyesh lo hashchata, yesh lo hakafa. When there's ruining the corner of the beard, destroying the corner of the beard, therefore there is also then ruining the corners, cutting the corners of the hair. Vahani, what? Okay, that's a shiur for another whole session. Okay, we could spend one session just on the definition of that issue. Okay, because what happened, just real quick, what happened is you're going to have to look at Tosafot, and from Tosafot, other Rishonim who point out that there are different minhagim. That's why, okay, Jews in Eastern Europe had full beards. That's why German Jews had a mustache and goatee and sideburns, okay? And that was one of the differences in terms of what minhag they followed in terms of satisfying the requirement of that person, okay? All right, that's a short answer, okay? All right, okay, so what happens? Okay, kol sheyesh lo hashkata, yesh lo hakafa, vahani neshe, and these women, okay, so that's what comes back to what we seem Shmuel was saying, all right? Ho'il velitnehu bahashkata, and since these women do not have destruction of their beards,
They don't have beards.
because they don't have beards, exactly. Litnehu nami hakafa hakafa. Therefore, they also would not hold, okay, are not subject to the prohibition of rounding the corners. So that would be the one who would say, Rav Huna would say, it applies only to men and not to women. So what happens? Rav Ada bar Ahava Savar, he is of the opinion, echad hamakif, echad hanikaf. This comes back, Ted, to your question. The same applies to the one who does the cutting as to the one who had the hair cut. Okay? B'mashma. All right, how we understand this? Ve'it kish makif v'nikaf. And he makes an association between the one cutting and the one who is
Hair is being cut.
right. Kol heicha denakif, that the one who has had the hair cut, mechayev also is over transgresses. Makif nami mechayev, and the one who does the actual hair cutting also transgresses. Vahai katan, okay, and this minor, vehu gufe lav ba'anshinhu, since he is not necessarily punishable, since he hasn't reached an age of being responsible for mitzvah, who the mechayev, okay, makif nami lo mechayev. Okay,
The Gemara is ruling out female barbers.
I wouldn't say that. Okay, all I would be saying is, okay, it depends on whose view. Okay, if Rav Huna says it doesn't apply to women, Rav Huna would therefore say a female barber would be acceptable. Okay, now you could probably rule that out for other reasons. Okay, not the issue of haircut. Okay, right? Okay, on the other hand, Rav Ada would say, okay, any barber, male or female, okay, is the issue.
You don't want a female coming in for the race.
Right. Alav ba'anshim hu the mechayev makif nami lo mechayev. Okay, therefore would also not be chayev. Lema. Let us therefore say hakafat kol harosh tanaihi. Shall we say then that there is a machloket tanaim regarding this rounding of the head? Okay, that's the case. The Tanu Rabbanan. Why? Because we have a Mishnah. Okay, I'm sorry, a Braita that teaches Rosho, his head. Ma Talmud Lomar. What is it talking about then? Lafisha ne'amar, because it says Lo takifu pa'at roshechem, because it says that you should not cut the corners of your head. Right? Right? So in other words, what does that imply? Corners of your heads, really plural. We'll just go over a tiny bit on the top of Nun Chet. Yachol af mitzorah. I might even said that should therefore apply to the mitzorah as well. Talmud Lomar Rosho. Therefore, it says his head. Okay, and then we're going to tomorrow get to another Braita. All right, that's going to teach Tanya and Idach Rosho, Ma Talmud Lomar, etc.
David, have a good. Kakos Rishmeach. Make sure, David.
Singing Cookie Man.
They bring jointly two sets of sacrifices. So they have to come together, and each brings a set of sacrifices, a tuma and a tara.
Could translate it as they bring together.
No, they bring jointly. They have to both come and bring. That's why I brought the art scroll with me today. Okay. Why would it send them? Why would it say two sets of sacrifices? Otherwise, it would say they jointly bring a set of sacrifices.
All right.
right?
Anyone keep it for a close up?
No, I got, head over to the doctor, we have ready for the big day. They didn't say whether. The band is ready.
He's the band indicator? You got the stamp of approval.